fought with everything I had to escape the human traffickers, but in the end, my sister was the one they took. When I got back home bloodied and broken, my mother didn't ask how I'd survived. She scolded me, called me a cold-hearted, ungrateful wolf. My father cut off my allowance and even threatened to throw me out. All I could do was let out a low sigh. And then came the final blow. My childhood sweetheart, a man I'd waited 10 years to marry, locked me out of our house. On our wedding night, outside, it was freezing. I died that night, alone on the street. But when I opened my eyes, Agani was back. Back to the day I was abducted. That wedding with Cyrus had been everything I'd dreamed of. I remembered it was 4 a.m. when the makeup artist joked, "With your parents here, you must feel more relaxed." My parents were wearing white, completely out of place among the traditional sea of red decorations. My mother looked at me coldly and said, "Your sister has been missing for so long. We have no mood to attend any wedding. All these years we've been grieving. It's the way you abandoned your sister and ran back by yourself. It disgusts us. Do you have any conscience? You're a heartless wolf." I stood there, stunned. Years ago, when my sister was kidnapped and I escaped, I returned home covered in blood and injuries. I just wanted to cry in my parents' arms. But all I saw were their disappointed eyes. "How dare you come back alone," they said. As her older sister, why didn't you protect her, like you was a shame? My sister was. Never found. After that, my parents stopped caring. They no longer asked about my grades. They never came to my parent-teacher meetings. There were only 2 sets of chopsticks at the dinner table. My bedroom was used as storage. Even my pictures, they threw them in the trash. The most brutal part, they stopped paying for my tuition and living expenses. I had no choice but to work part-time while studying, sleeping only 4 hours a day. I kept telling myself they were just grieving. But I was wrong. Years later, on the most important day of my life, they still chose to wound me with their harshest words. I tried not to cry. I looked at Cyrus on the stage. He had been my childhood friend for 20 years. When we were young, he was weak and often bullied, and I protected him for 9 years through school. After the college entrance exams, he told me Xenia protected me for 9 years. I'll protect her for a lifetime. To me, he was already family. Even without my parents' blessing, at least I thought I had him. I nervously walked up the stage, waiting for him to put the wedding ring on my finger. Instead, he slapped me right there in front of everyone. "I've waited a long time for this day," he said. "I want to take revenge for the one I love most. If you hadn't been so selfish, she wouldn't still be suffering. Xenia, when you do something wrong, you have to pay." My bouquet fell from my hands. I collapsed to the ground. My wedding turned into a joke. That night, in temperatures below -10 degrees, he kicked me out. In just my pajamas, I went to my parents' door. They turned me away too. With nowhere to go, I froze to death. And then I woke up again. Back to the day I was abducted. The traffickers had left their van to grab something from the convenience store. In my past life, my sister and I had waited for this moment to escape. We played dead until they let their guard down. I ran. I made it out, but my sister had stayed behind, frozen in fear. This time, I wasn't going to repeat that mistake. When the traffickers returned, we kept pretending to be unconscious. Half an hour later, they dragged us off the van, preparing to sell us. I sprang into action, not to flee but to lunge at the man holding my sister. I fought like hell and gave her the chance to run. The trafficker screamed, "Are you crazy? She's not worth saving. She won't even look at you." I was beaten bloody, but I grinned, because I knew my fortune was coming that night. When I had died in my past life, the news had been broadcasting something big. The only heir of the Jason family has been found after years of searching. Jason family, the wealthiest in the region, offered a reward in the billions for their lost son. And by coincidence, my sister had been sold to the family that raised him. I remembered the people on the street saying, "That girl was sold to the same house where the Jason heir was. Lucky girl, she'd live like a queen now." Jason had been so traumatized from being lost that he'd gone into a mental stupor. My sister despised him, beat him, cursed him for years. But when she found out his identity, she begged him with tears. But Jason had already recovered, and he pushed her away with disgust. She hated him when he was weak, people said, laughing. Now she regrets it, but too late. Some people just aren't meant to have money. I remembered all of this. So, when I saw Jason again lost, dazed eye swallowed hard. He was a walking gold mine. Gently I said, "Your name is Jason. Your home is by the sea. Your real parents have been looking for you for years. Trust me, I'll take you home." Home, he mumbled, still dazed. The sunset streamed through the window, casting light on his handsome, fragile face. He nodded. I was excited beyond words. I began massaging his temples, shoulders, feet, techniques I'd learned from an old Chinese doctor in high school who had cured mental trauma. Slowly, Jason relaxed and fell into a deep sleep. We pretended to deceive his foster mother, the woman who'd bought him, who couldn't have kids. She'd taken out her frustrations on him for years. Even bought a bride for him, hoping to get a grandchild. But she hadn't expected me. Whenever she beat Jason, I shielded him. When she made him do labor, I took the hoe from him. When she denied him food, I snuck him chicken legs. Every day I massaged him and gave him herbal medicine. 2 years later, he woke up, jumped out of bed. His eyes were clear. He took my hand and we ran away. Everyone in the Jason family was shocked to see how much he'd grown. His father immediately transferred $200 million to me and promised me anything I wanted. Jason silently gave me all his shares and swore to give me the grandest wedding. In an instant, I had everything, and this time, when I looked into Jason's eyes, I saw stars. He wasn't Cyrus. He was different. While trying on dresses at the bridal shop, I heard a familiar voice next door. "My sister? Brother Cyrus? It's fate we ended up together," she said. "If Xena hadn't been kidnapped, I wouldn't have you," she laughed. "I hope she never comes back. Everyone's happier without her." Even my father chuckled. "Even if she returns, so what? These two are made for each other. She can only watch." My mother agreed. In my last life, my sister hated me for surviving. In this one, they hadn't even looked for me after I disappeared. Gritted my teeth, pulled the curtain aside and stepped into the room. My sister fell to the ground, stunned. My parents stood up in shock. Cyrus stared, eyes wide. Before I could speak, my mother slapped me. "Ungrateful wretch. Why didn't you tell us you were back?" My sister sneered. "That dress looks expensive." "You didn't hook some rich old man, did you?" Cyrus frowned. "Even if I don't like you, you shouldn't degrade yourself like this." My sister demanded the shop manager take off my dress so she could try it. But the manager, seeing the slap mark on my face, was horrified. She stepped in. "Please show some respect. This dress is custom made for Ms. Xena. It's worth a fortune." My sister scoffed. "What? Do you think I can't afford it?" Cyrus sneered. "How expensive could a wedding dress be?" My mother sighed. "Zanaya, you're the older sister. Shouldn't you let your younger sister have it?" Always letting Dot in kindergarten, I had to share my friends. In primary school, she took my field trip spot. In high school, I wore one uniform while she had many. Now they wanted my wedding dress. Expressionless, I replied, "This dress is worth millions. If you can afford it, buy it. It's custom made. My sister seems bigger than me. She might want to lose a little weight. Oh, and this shop, it's under my name now. Since we were once family, I'll give you a discount." The manager handed them the price tag. A string of zeros turned their faces pale. Just then, Jason came out of the restroom, saw the slap mark, and gently touched my cheek, his eyes full of pain. "Isn't that the Jason heir?" Someone whispered. "That must be the girl who saved him. They say she owns this bridal shop now." My parents were stunned. Cyrus stepped back in shame. My sister's eyes burned with envy. Jason said one word, and security removed them. Still, my sister sneered. "He's only marrying you out of guilt. It's not love." "He'll leave you," Cyrus added. "Who cares about money? Love is what matters. Zanaya and I were the happiest." Jason tightened his grip on my hand. Love or not, tit, didn't matter. Our bond was built on more. Marriage isn't just about love. Right. It's a commitment. Over 2 years, We supported each other and became stronger. Jason suddenly said, "But I do love you. I'll spend my life proving it." My heart stirred. 2 weeks later, our grand beach wedding arrived. The Jason heir was found. Guests flocked in. I was busy greeting them, till I realized Jason had vanished. They found him. In the dressing room with my sister, she wore a bridal gown, pressed close to him. I slapped her across the face. "Sister, it's not what you think," she cried. Guests whispered. The groom out. Cheated with her sister. Then Cyrus stormed in also in a groom's suit. "Jason, how dare you steal?" "My Celine." Then he turned to me. "How could you not watch your husband?" Jason, calm, waited for everyone to arrive. Then he played a recording. Celine's voice. "You should marry me, not her. Let's run away. I'll give myself to you. Just don't ignore me." Silence. Cyrus looked like he'd been slapped. The room turned against my sister. She stole her sister's man for money. Cyrus dragged her out in shame. She still looked longingly at Jason, but Jason turned to me, annoyed. "My clothes are dirty," he said. She touched me. We resumed our wedding. When we exchanged drinks, I realized Jason had protected everything. Marriage isn't just one person's duty. It takes two. Afterward, we joined the Jason Company together, studied hard. No shortcuts. In a year, I moved from a branch to the headquarters. I invested in the internet industry. My career soared then. My parents came back. "Zanea, you've been cold, but we don't blame you. We just want to open a small business. Could you give us a branch? Somewhere close? Maybe with a maid?" I smiled. "Why should I?" They stared, confused. I leaned back. "When I said I loved you, what did you say? That I was a fool? Everything belonged to my sister. I should take care of her for life. She got twice the allowance. Got a hanger, she had a wardrobe. When I had a fever of 40 degrees Celsius, you ignored me for her TV show. If I hadn't survived on my own, I'd have died. When I was kidnapped, you didn't even post a notice, so tell me, how dare you come here now, looking for me now? Get out of my house." They stood there stunned. As I recounted the past, they couldn't deny it, and a hint of shame appeared on their faces, but they wouldn't admit it. Their faces turned red with embarrassment. They angrily accused me of being an unfilial daughter. I smiled and admitted it, then called someone to throw them out. Passers-by outside murmured, "How did people their age get thrown out?" I know them. They're Zanea's real parents. Looks like they came to try and latch onto her success, but got slapped in the face. I heard that when Zanea was young, they were biased and harsh, and now they've come crawling back to her. They were furious, but they were completely humiliated. They left in disgrace. After that, life returned to peace. Came to visit several times. I turned them away every time. I heard that after they quit their jobs, they had no income. But my sister kept demanding money, so they had to sell their house and car to feed her growing appetite. One was willing to be hated, the other willing to be the hitter. They brought it upon themselves. But not long after, I received an invitation from Cyrus. His child with my sister had turned 1 month old, and he invited Jason and me to a banquet. I knew exactly what he was up to. Jason and I had been married for 2 years, but didn't have children because we were both too busy. Cyrus, in every way, hadn't fulfilled why Celine couldn't compare to Jason. After struggling so hard to secure a child, he naturally wouldn't miss the opportunity to flaunt it in front of us. Over the past few years, as I mingled with the upper circles, I had learned a lot of gossip. I didn't want to get involved in their matters again. But thinking back to the previous life, when he coldly locked me outside, regardless of the fact that I was wearing nothing but a nightgown, ignoring my cries and letting me freeze to death outside, my heart turned as hard as iron. Let this child's full moon banquet be the occasion for me to shine. At the full moon banquet, Jason and I attended in our finest attire. Cyrus in his suit stood tall with pride, his chest puffed out. My sister, holding the child, smiled sweetly. Our figure was slightly bulky, while I, never having given birth, still maintained a slender figure. She looked me up and down before, sneering, "Is my sister not eating enough?" Why are you so thin? Oh, maybe it's because I had a child and have a happy family now, so I gained some happy weight. Cyrus wrapped his arm around her. What? Wait. I love you however you are. You gave? The Cyrus family a child. You're our biggest hero. A family without children isn't a family at all. It's cold and lacks warmth. A man without children, no matter how successful he is in business, is a failure. I smiled and looked at Jason, winking at him. These words were clearly aimed at us, mocking him. Jason took my arm and said, "My love is for you and you alone. In our family, you will always come first." Now it was my sister's turn to look unpleasant. She glared at me with jealousy. When the banquet started, a large screen began, displaying sweet photos of Cyrus and his wife, along with pictures of the child's birth. Guests congratulated them on their perfect and happy family. Cyrus's pride seemed to soar. My sister smugly said, "I already have a child. Sister, you're not infertile, are you? If you don't have a child soon, you'll be an older mother, and people will laugh at you." The people at the table turned their gaze to me. "Yeah, Zina, no matter how busy you are, you should have a child. A woman who's not at home having children but out there making a name for herself is really insane. Zanaya, you can't really be infertile, can you? Want me to introduce you to a doctor?" They laughed, mocking me. But I only smiled and said, "Whether or not I have children is my business. A woman should decide what she does with her body. I just think that having children should be a cautious decision, not something done recklessly." Cyrus, growing angry, retorted, "What do you mean by recklessly?" That moment, the screen abruptly changed. Photos started flashing. My sister was seen entering hotels with various men. These men, with bloated faces and greasy hair, were executives of various companies. Greasy hands draped around my sister's waist, and she smiled like a blooming flower. The guests gasped in shock. No wonder Zanaya said what she did. Celine has been cheating all along. This isn't cheating. It's selling herself. I thought the child's hair was naturally curly, but Cyrus has straight hair. Who's the father? Cyrus had been waiting for this child for so long, only to find out it wasn't even his. His head must be covered in green. My sister screamed in horror and demanded the screen be turned off. Cyrus, who had once held the child with such affection, now threw the child into someone else's arms. What he had once thought to be the most adorable thing now repulsed him. Furious, he questioned my sister. My sister, terrified, denied everything. Cyrus, enraged, his last shred of dignity shattered in public, had lost everything. "Divorce, divorce," he shouted. My sister sat on the floor crying. This was my gift to them. I'd known from the beginning that my sister would climb onto Jason for money, and later she would climb onto others for the same reason. Over the past 2 years, I had heard many of her absurd actions. A little investigation would easily uncover photos taken by those who had an interest in exposing her. The banquet ended in discomfort, and everyone left. After enjoying the spectacle, Cyrus had a paternity test done. He cried on the floor, clutching his head. Just as I was about to leave, he suddenly called out to me, "Zanaya, do you think I'm a joke too?" "I don't care about what others think. Only care about what you think. We've known each other for over a decade. Childhood friends. Are you telling me that someone you've only known for a few years matters more than me? I know you've always liked me. If I say I regret it, will you come back to me?" Jason immediately tightened his grip on my hand. I patted him to signal him to relax. I had indeed once liked Cyrus, but I realized I had never shared hardship with him. I didn't really know him. By the time I understood, I had already suffered too much. In this life, I would not allow myself to be hurt again. I spoke to him with great sincerity. "Cyrus, like everyone else, I think you're a joke." With that, I grabbed Jason's hand and left without hesitation. Behind me, I heard Cyrus's anguished sobs, but I didn't stop. Later, I learned from others that the child indeed wasn't Cyrus's. Cyrus and my sister divorced. But my sister found the child's real father and became his mistress. With the manipulation of the wealthy, my sister took all the property, leaving Cyrus with nothing. Now he truly had nothing. I saw him in a friend's social circle, still in freezing winter temperatures. He walked the streets alone, homeless, with nowhere to go. I instantly thought of my past life. Karma, a beast as mighty as the cycle of life and death. My sister was like a vampire. She had taken all of Cyrus's wealth and even deceived our parents into selling their house and car. For a while, she lived freely as a rich man's mistress. But the good times didn't last. The legitimate wife of her rich lover came looking for her, demanding she return everything. My sister couldn't compete with her. She took everything from my sister and kicked her out. What I didn't expect was that my parents came looking for me again. They looked much older, their clothes worn and shoes dusty, their eyes clouded. Mom, wearing an old white cotton coat, sobbed as she said, "You don't have to help us. But your sister has fallen to this state, and you can't just stand by. Give Jason to her. He's a good man. He can protect her. As an older sister, you can't be so heartless." This scene suddenly overlapped with my past life. At my wedding to Cyrus in the previous life, Mom had worn a white dress and accused me of being selfish. Back then, I didn't argue, quietly swallowing my bitterness. But this life, I wouldn't endure. I coldly said, "The selfish ones are not me, but you. You've criticized me for years, and when I left it was your own doing. You pampered my sister endlessly, and now she's become what she is. It's your own fault. You say I don't deserve to be a sister. But I'll tell you this, you don't deserve to be parents." I gave the order to close the door. My door would never open to them again. From upstairs, I watched the two elderly figures, lost and confused, standing there. Their faces were filled with blankness. My sister emerged from behind the tree, fury in her eyes. She slapped them both across the face, angrily saying something. I couldn't catch her words, but from the movement of her lips, it seemed to be something like useless or worthless fools. She beat them mercilessly, showing no mercy, as though they weren't her parents at all. After a while, kind-hearted passers-by came over to intervene, but my sister refused to let anyone step in. The passers-by had no choice but to call the police. Once the police arrived and took her away for fighting, my parents' murky eyes finally shed a couple of tears. Maybe a little too late, just maybe. They regretted it. Jason pulled me away from the window. The room, without me realizing, had been covered with flowers, and a black swan cake was placed in the center. I stared at it, stunned. He explained, "Today's the anniversary of our first meeting." My memory suddenly snapped back to that day, the day I died on the streets, the day I was reborn, the day Jason and I met. It was the day of my new life. End. She was sizing me up before realization hit. "Joss, so Seraphina's your sister. I can't believe I didn't notice." She sneered, lazily chewing gum as she looked at me with pure contempt. Then she threw an arm around Joss's shoulder and said with a smug smile, "Since she's your sister, just a friendly reminder, tell her to stop being such a bizboy. If no one likes her, she shouldn't try so hard to be the third wheel and ruin other people's relationships. It's really pathetic." She didn't mention Silas by name, but the meaning in her tone was clear. She thought I was just jealous daddling. To Silas's parents, "Joss, look at me," I said, watching his confused face. I smiled coldly, lowering my voice. "Zara, your family's rich. You've had the privilege to be reckless, knowing your future was always secure. But Silas is different. He's his parents' hope. And because of you, he's learned to lie, sneak home late, and talk back too. His elders? Did you really think his parents wouldn't notice? That's ridiculous. So, you're the only smart one, and the rest of us are fools." Something I said must have struck a nerve. Zara clapped her hands over her ears and screamed at me to stop. She looked so fragile. Joss grew worried. He grabbed my shoulder, urging me to shut up. I pushed him away and kept going. "And about what you said, liking him, Zara, you take Silas way too seriously. You treat him like treasure. But to me, he's not even worth a blade of grass. I never liked him. Stop thinking everyone's trying to steal him from you. It's annoying." The moment I finished speaking, a sharp slap cracked across my cheek. My head snapped to the side, frozen in place, Joss seemed to snap out of it, trembling as he reached out to touch my burning cheek. I dodged him. Hey, you, hey, you. I didn't mean it, he stammered. It was so sudden I didn't think. Come on, I'll take you to the hospital. I didn't answer or move. Silence fell. Zara crouched on the ground, crying. Stood there, torn, not knowing what to do. If you love her so much, then treat her like your own sister. Even if we're sworn siblings, I don't care anymore, I choked out. Joss, I don't want you. I wiped away my tears, pulled out the dictionary he once gave me from my bag, and threw it to the ground before running off. Crying by the time Joss returned after taking Zara home, he found out I had already been admitted to the hospital, thankfully. Though my eardrum had ruptured from the slap, it wasn't too serious. With medicine and rest, it would heal. Because of that slap, my dad nearly kicked Joss out of the house. After all, I was his favorite. When Joss returned to school, he came to visit and apologized. Hey you, ... hey you. I was wrong. Can you forgive me just this once? I wanted to say something, but then I remembered how he had abandoned our family and gone abroad because of Zara. He fancied himself her godfather, doting on her children, and that had hurt me deeply. I shook my head and silently walked into the bathroom. That was my answer. The love triangle was already exposed. After finding out that Zara was Silas's beloved, Joss cut off all contact with Yao Yao online. He tried to make peace by buying me a mountain of snacks, but I refused them and sent them all to Zara pretending they were from an anonymous online friend. Wasn't that the kind of admiration she loved? I stayed home for a month to recover. Only after my ear healed did I return to school. It was our final year crucial. I had no time to care about Silas or Zara. I only heard that their puppy love relationship had gotten them publicly scolded by the dean during the flag-raising ceremony. News of Silas dating a sophomore spread like wildfire. I couldn't avoid hearing about it. Silas's mom had been called to school several times. Zara, who had no elders at home, kept up an indifferent attitude, infuriating, yet no one could do anything. It was Silas's parents who bore the burden. Serafina, no wonder you don't walk home with Silas anymore. How does it feel to be the third wheel now? My deskmate nudged my shoulder, eyes full of gossip. I don't know. Don't care. It's not important. Go ask the people involved, I replied coolly, pushing her away. Then I returned to studying. I was so busy. I barely had time to drink water, let alone worry if their romance was sweet or bitter. They were. The male and female leads, blessed by fate. Even while dating, they still had top universities within reach. But for someone like me, a mere expendabliff, I wanted something. I had to fight with everything I had. Hey, Silas, come with me. I have something good for you. As the evening study bell rang, Zara barged in with a gift box, smiling brightly. A few bullies away. A few bullies followed them out. They came back much later, but no matter how we asked, none of the boys would say a word. On the bus, as if on purpose, Zara teased Silas in front of me, giggling and coaxing until his face turned red with embarrassment. Grandma, come sit here. I stood and greeted an elderly woman nearby only, for Zara to plop down in the seat before the old lady could. She glanced at me and muttered, "So fake," playing the innocent fairy again. "Right back at you," I replied coldly, seeing Zara about to pick a fight. Silas quickly stepped in. "Zara, don't do this. We're on the bus." Zara pouted, but got up and helped the old woman to the seat, not wanting to watch more drama unfold. I moved to the front of the bus to stand, unexpectedly as I turned. My eyes met Silas's. He stared at me steadily until Zara quickly blocked his line of sight. I scoffed at her antics and turned to look out the window, knowing how important Silas's college entrance exams were. Zara eventually toned down her behavior and stopped showing up at the senior teaching building. Still, rumors said she had gathered a new group outside school, explaining her run-ins with local thugs soon. A low sigh escaped me. The day I had suffered tragedy in my past life had arrived again, afraid something bad would happen. I refused to leave the house. When my mother asked me to go buy soy sauce, just like last time, I faked feeling unwell and stayed in. Later, I saw Silas across from our building. walking unsteadily. That day was always bound to be chaotic. News came quickly. Silas had been rushed to the hospital by Zara. A comminuted fracture in his right hand shattered all hope of taking the exam tomorrow. The school's pride, the top student, had shocked everyone in the hospital corridor. Zara sat dumbfounded in a corner, eyes blank. When Silas's mother arrived and saw her, she flew into a rage. If Silas's father hadn't held her back, she might have struck Zara. In the original timeline, the people involved in the accident were different. This one small change altered everything that followed. Seeing Silas lying pale and fragile on the hospital bed, Zara no longer wore her usual aloof expression. She gathered her so-called gang and vowed revenge on whoever was responsible. No one knew what became of that threat, but battered and bruised, Zara didn't come to her senses as she had in the past. Instead, she spiraled deeper into madness, frequenting bars, learning to smoke, drinking heavily, and getting involved with shady people. On the day of the college entrance exam, as I sat at my desk, watching the sun rise after rain, I exhaled deeply. This time, I was no longer the fragile girl everyone pitied. This time, my future was mine to fight for. The 2 days of exams passed quickly, but the night they ended, I suddenly fell ill, burning with fever through the night. No one knew I was dreaming of my past life again. In the dream, Zara and Silas were camping. Outdoors, their 2 children running around, laughing and calling out to their parents. And Zara Vazara, from my dream, looked nothing like the one. I knew now she was impeccably dressed, now nothing like the wild girl she used to be. When Zara sneezed, Silas Enderly pulled her into his arms. They exchanged loving smiles. The warmth in that family scene felt so tender, so sacred. But then, a heavily bundled stranger approached. His face was hidden. Everything happened too fast. A sudden bang, flames erupted. And just like that, the entire family perished in the explosion, along with the culprit himself. Perhaps that was the true ending of the previous life. Thinking of this, my resentment faded a little. After all, good and evil are repaid in kind. Everyone ends up meeting their fate. The aggressive illness that followed left me unconscious for 3 full days. When I finally woke up, I opened my eyes to see my parents leaning over me, tears brimming in their eyes even as they scolded me softly. "Didn't I tell you not to kick off your covers at night? You never listen. Look where you ended up now, hooked up to IVs. Who else can you blame?" My mother poked my forehead irritably. "Ouch, ouch." "Thank you, Dow." "Your wife is bullying me," I said, rubbing my head and pretending to be pitiful. "That brat's got no manners. She needs a good scolding from her mom," my father added with a laugh. Laughter filled the hospital room. Waking up this time felt like chains had broken off me. I felt lighter. Even breathing seemed easier. Some memories of the previous life began to fade, fuzzy at the edges. I found myself forgetting the details. On the day I was discharged, I stopped by to see Silas. He was sitting in his hospital room reading a book, his right hand encased in a thick cast, struggling to move it. Because of Zara, my relationship with him had become awkward. Noticing his gaze, I cleared my throat and asked dryly, "Are you going to repeat a year?" "Yeah," he said, lowering his head. He seemed unsettled. "Serafina, how did your exam go?" Was it tough? I thought for a moment. Honestly, it went pretty well. If nothing unexpected happens, I should get into my dream university. I smiled brightly, metaphorically stabbing him in the heart. Someone had to pay for the harm he caused. Ray's parents in the previous life. And now that I wasn't dead, he and his lovebird could twist their fate however they liked. As long as no innocents got hurt, thanks to Silas's mother's deliberate interference. I hadn't seen Zara for 2 days. Before I left, he looked at me, hesitant, clearly wanting to say something. I raised an eyebrow, pretending not to notice. Just as I was stepping out of the room, Silas called after me, embarrassed. "Serafina, can you please tell Zara not to blame herself?" I never blamed her what I said that day. It was just anger. Before he could finish, I cut him off coldly. Now seeing Joss approaching in the distance, I shifted my tone and smiled. But someone else might be happy to pass along your message. They've got history with her. After all, Mom and Dad want me to pick you up, Joss said to me as usual, as if nothing had happened before. I nodded, gestured toward Silas, and said, he needs a favor from you. You to talk? I'll wait outside the hospital. Goss came out looking calm. I was curious whether he'd seek out Zara. At a red light, he suddenly asked, Hey, do you really hate Zara? Making your big brother ask why? It's not hate. I replied, eyes closed in the passenger seat. I just can't like her. Some people's vibes just don't mesh. Peaceful coexistence is impossible. He stayed silent, so I added, if you really like her and want her to be your sister-in-law, I advise you to move out. Otherwise, there'll never be peace at home. I won't compromise myself. I'm your parents' daughter. I'll handle that. They don't need to worry. He chuckled softly. You think a lot for someone your age? Don't talk nonsense. She's Silas's girlfriend. We're just casual online friends. Fine. I let out a moan. Whatever. It's none of my business anyway. He habitually reached over to stroke my head, but I dodged him. Seeing my resistance, Joss sighed and said no more. On the day the admission letters arrived, I ran into Silas and Zara arguing downstairs. Zara accused him of neglecting her, convinced he had fallen for someone else. Silas rubbed his temples helplessly, his frown heavy. Zara, senior year's about to start. You really need to get serious. Even though I'm repeating at another school, we can study together after classes. Didn't we agree to get into the same university? But Zara was like a runaway horse, refusing to rein in. She waved her hand dismissively, ignoring Silas entirely. But school hasn't started. Yet, let's have fun first. When classes begin, I promise I'll study hard and stop going to bars, she said, clinging to Silas coquettishly. I'd heard she'd become a popular bar singer, which explained Silas's growing insecurity. Because I hadn't died, their fates had shifted. Silas had to repeat a year. Zara was still drifting, completely lacking the awakening she had in the previous life. As school registration day approached, my parents grew increasingly reluctant to let me go. On the morning before school started, my mother rushed into my room, wrapped me in a tight hug, and cried uncontrollably. She kept murmuring, so good, so good. I was puzzled. Cough, cough, Mom. You're squeezing too tight. I can't breathe. Though you've worried us at times, we've raised you this far. If you don't repay some of that cost, it'd be a loss. So please, live well. Then, snapping back to her usual self, she slapped my thigh. Nonsense. Get up quickly. Daughter is as lazy as you? Half asleep? I thought I saw her shoulder twitching after she left. I glanced at the clock, only 6 a.m., and rolled back into bed for more sleep. When I woke again, she was her usual self, though the corners of her eyes were a little red. Come on, darling, eat more. You've lost weight, my dad said, placing a bowl piled high with food in front of me, his eyes shining warmly. Thanks, Dad. Maybe because parting was near, my eyes suddenly welled up and tears dropped into my bowl, leaving me slightly disheveled. Neither of them went to work that day. They said they wanted to help me pack since they'd be taking me to school tomorrow. That night, my mom came to sleep with me, gently holding me in her arms and softly patting my back, just like when I was a child. In the blink of an eye, you've grown so much. Your dad and I are just glad you're doing well. As for we don't need you to achieve greatness, only to be safe and happy. Remember, we'll always love you. I hugged her waist, tears flowing silently, unaware of the strange sadness beneath her words. In my past life, I died too early, leaving them to suffer the pain of losing a child. Now, even with a second chance, I still had little time to stay by their side before leaving again. I fell asleep in my mom's arms and woke the next morning to see many strands of white hair graying her temples. Since I enrolled in a university in our home province, we arrived quickly. After settling into my dorm, my mom kept nagging me like she wouldn't ever see me again, though she promised she'd come visit whenever she had time. You be good and don't get sick, she said, holding me tightly, her voice choked. With emotion, watching them walk away, memories of my previous life flashed in my mind. My nose tingled, and I couldn't help but call out, "Mom, Dad?" They never looked back, and I watched their figures grow smaller in the distance. College life was colorful and busy. I threw myself into club activities and seldom kept up with Silas and Zara's drama. Later, my mom told me Silas's grades had dropped badly because of Zara. They quarreled constantly, and he looked mentally drained. Two extremes. Silusa, foolish boy repeating a year for love. Zara, notorious troublemaker. Their romance was far from the fairy tale novels described. During winter break, I ran into Silas on my doorstep just as he was leaving. Our eyes met, and to my surprise, he greeted me. Ever since Silas got together with Zara, we'd reached a point of complete estrangement. I nodded, ready to go inside, but he called out to me. "Ah, you. I apologize for my past unreasonable behavior. I never wanted to lose you as a good friend," he said, watching my expression carefully. "Do you remember when we were kids, Silas?" I cut him off. "Love requires mutual effort, as does friendship. Can't go back, sorry." "I went too far," he said awkwardly, trying to hide his embarrassment. His self-reflection hinted at cracks in his relationship with Zara, perhaps. The world really did revolve around those two, because I kept running into their fights all break. Zara loved playing with random guys who chased her, which made Silas insecure. One day, dressed to attract attention, Zara blocked Silas's path, saying impatiently, "We're just friends, nothing else. Why can't you believe me?" At her steadily, "Zara, let's break up." "No, I won't agree. You promised you'd never leave me." She panicked, clinging to him. I said, "Break up." His eyes were resolute. Lowering his gaze to hide the sorrow, he whispered, "Actually, Mom was right. We're not the same kind. You crave freedom, want stability. I don't like you going to those places. We've fought too many times lately and you always brush me off. I'm exhausted. Please let me go." As prideful as ever, Zara, faced with his final words, didn't cling anymore. Dead. She curled her lips into a cruel smile and slapped him. "Hard. I was wrong about you. You're no good either." Before the year ended, they had completely broken up. Their fates diverged sharply from the previous life. After the split, Silas threw himself into studying again, finally easing his parents' worries. Zaran, illegitimate daughter of a wealthy family, lacked any sense of crisis. She spent her days skipping class and partying. Silas, unsurprisingly, became the city's top scholar again, reclaiming his spot as the model child. I thought they might reconcile like some cliché novel ending. But Silas went north to a distant university, and Zara soon accepted someone else's confession. They truly lost all contact. In my senior year, still uncertain about postgrad plans, I once passed by a fortune teller on a pedestrian bridge. He suddenly called out, "Young lady, want a reading?" I smiled, shook my head, and was about to leave when he said, "You should have been short-lived." But fate changed, truly remarkable. He stroked an invisible beard. As someone who had been reborn, I felt a chill as if he'd seen right through me. Feigning calm, I approached a stall. "I don't quite understand, master. You must be mistaken." "If I'm wrong, you'd know deep down," he said, reading my palm. "Destiny is fixed, but fate is mutable. According to your original path, you should have died at 18, but someone used a lifetime of good karma to give you a chance to change your fate. Am I right?" I no longer doubted it. I hadn't been reborn out of mere resentment. After all, countless people suffer in this world. Why was I the one shown mercy? A parent's love is far-reaching, flowing from birth onward, young lady. "Cherish the limited time you have with your family," he said gently. Patting my shoulder before packing up, I suddenly remembered how strange my parents had acted the day before university registration. Not oddly strange, but like they were the same parents from my past life. Here just to see me one last time. Remembering that dream, everything finally made sense. I gave a bitter smile. Everything was because of me. After graduation, I returned home and found a job that wasn't too demanding, always clinging to my parents. Though they pretended to be annoyed, I could feel how happy they were that I was. Nearby, at 26, I married Ellis, a senior from my university. We dated for 3 years and naturally became a couple. After marriage, we bought a small house across from my parents. In recent years, Joss had disappeared after a failed startup. He hadn't come home in a long time. When I received Silas's wedding invitation, I was 5 months pregnant. The bride wasn't Zara, but a poised, confident, beautiful colleague from work. Silas's eyes sparkled with love when he looked at her. Who would have thought that the Zara he once loved so desperately had truly become a thing of the past? Businessmen always chase profit. Without her brilliance from the last life, Zara was never taken back into the Liu family's fold. A new heir had taken over. There was no place for her anymore. In just a few years, no one knew where Zara had gone. Rumor had it she became the mistress of an underworld boss, walking a path of no return. When Leora was 3, my parents' health began to decline rapidly, just as the fortune teller had said. "Mom, would life be easier without me?" I once whispered, leaning on her shoulder, tears in my eyes. "Nonsense. You're much more filial than your brother. Without you, he'd have driven your dad and me crazy. We used to worry about you. Now, seeing how well Shawan treats you, we're relieved. But change that temper of yours. Stop bullying him." Seeing my mom defend Ellis, I rolled my eyes. "Mom, Ellis is clever. He just pretends to be pitiful around you. How am I bullying him?" She stroked my hair, smiling. "I know, so stop talking nonsense. Hey you, your dad and I never regretted having you. We love you very much." "Yeah, I know." After that, I never spoke such gloomy words again. Long ago, I'd already known they truly loved me. Thankfully. Hopefully. Companionship. The longest confession of love. And I have always stayed by their side.